Hello, Decatur High School. My name is Emily Pavoda, and I am a prevention specialist with Star Council on Substance Abuse. Star Council is an outpatient treatment facility that uses group and individual counseling to counsel adults who have issues with drugs, alcohol, sometimes tobacco. My particular job as a prevention specialist is to prevent the use of drugs and alcohol in the community by educating schools, educating adults. So I was asked here today to talk to you guys about prescription drugs and medications. So before we get into really what prescription drugs are, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between what a medicine is and what a drug is. So a medicine is something that changes how your body works, and it treats or prevents a disease or a symptom. A drug is a little bit different, okay? It also changes how your body works, but it's designed to produce a specific reaction in your body. So for example, a stimulant is designed to speed your body up. So it's a little bit confusing because all medicines are drugs, all right? They all change your body, they all produce a specific reaction, but a lot of times that reaction is to prevent a disease or a symptom. But all drugs are not medicines, all right? Not every drug treats or prevents a disease. So it's a little bit different, a little bit confusing, but the two are kind of interchangeable a little bit. So sometimes we don't think of prescriptions or over-the-counter medications as drugs because we always think of drugs as like a negative thing. We think about alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, meth, all right? And we also think about the negative things that come along with those drugs: addiction, abuse, issues with the law, harm to our bodies. But prescription drugs, even though they're beneficial, ordered by a doctor, they still have the same negative outcomes when they are used improperly. So it's important to kind of talk about that. So prescription drugs specifically are a medicine that legally requires a doctor's orders. That's the prescription to dispense. So they're bought at a pharmacy through a pharmacist, and they're ordered for one specific person only. It's a little bit different than over-the-counter medications like Tylenol or Benadryl, because those you can buy wherever you want and multiple people can use them, okay? So prescription drugs are really powerful. Doctors take a lot of steps to try and ensure that they're going to be safe for the person who is using them. So they look at your weight, your age, your medical history. They look at what you're allergic to make sure that specific person is going to be okay while they're using them. So we have to have this control because there's still the potential for misuse and abuse when they're not used the way the doctor wants you to use them. When someone specifically just uses a prescription drug, they take it the way it's intended, and it's by the correct person. So it's the correct dose, taken at the correct time, for the correct length of time, and for the correct reason. If you're prescribed a painkiller for a toothache, you're using the painkiller for your toothache. Only you are using it. You're using the right amount and for whatever length of time the doctor says. When it gets into misuse, misuse is when you start using it for the purpose it's not intended to be used for, but usually not to get high. All right, someone who misuses a prescription drugs, they don't follow the instructions, they might take a little too much, like an extra pill or so, and they might use their medication for a different symptom or issue. So for example, using a powerful painkiller for your toothache for something like a simple headache, all right? It could also mean taking a medication that wasn't prescribed to you, borrowing one from a friend or for a family member. When it gets into abuse is when people use drugs or prescription drugs to get high, and usually that means without a prescription. So they far exceed the recommended dose, they use repeatedly, and oftentimes develop a dependence or tolerance of the drug. Both misuse and abuse are harmful. And can be life-threatening. One of them is not, they're both worse than just the simple use of the prescription drug. So a lot of people ask me, what's the worst that can happen? It's just a prescription. It's not a big deal. But unfortunately, the worst that can happen is, of course, death. All right, fatal overdose is all of a sudden a really common thing in the United States now from prescription drugs. So they have a lot of different effects on your body depending on what the drug does. Opioid painkillers can cause constipation, nausea, slowed breathing, drowsiness, confusion, poor coordination, and even increased pain in larger doses. Sedatives and anti-anxiety medications can cause drowsiness, confusion, slurred speech, poor concentration, memory issues, and again, that slowed breathing. Stimulants can cause agitation, high body temperatures, high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, anxiety, paranoia, not stuff that's pleasant at all. And over the course of time, the longer they're misused, the longer they're abused, it can cause addiction and dependency, things like severe liver damage, even infertility. Sometimes there's even more acute or sudden risks like seizures, heart attacks, and fatal overdoses, especially when they're mixed with other drugs and alcohol. All in all, it's just not worth it to misuse and abuse them. Before I get done here, I'm going to give you guys a couple of facts. Okay, last year, approximately 64,000 Americans died from a drug overdose, and over half of those overdosed from prescription and synthetic painkillers. So that's why it's now considered a national crisis here in the United States. Drug overdoses are the leading cause of death in Americans under the age of 50, even more than guns and car accidents. And it's estimated that over 2 million Americans currently have a problem with prescription drugs. And of those 2 million Americans, young adults are the biggest abusers of the drugs. And that's for a lot of reasons, but a lot of times young adults sometimes believe some of the myths surrounding prescription drugs. One myth, that they must be safe. They're ordered by a doctor, so it's okay for me to use them how I want. But unfortunately, no, that's not true. Like I said before, doctors take a lot of steps to ensure that prescription drugs are safe for the person they order them for. So when the drugs are misused, when they're abused by people, then yeah, they become dangerous and they're no longer safe for the people who are using them. The other myth, believed especially by young people, is that it can't happen to me. I'm going to be fine. But unfortunately, it's just like drinking and driving and getting into an accident, or getting cancer because someone's been smoking. It can happen to anyone who makes the decision to misuse or abuse these drugs. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what age you are, who your family is. It can happen to anybody. So what can we do about this new national crisis? There's a lot of things we can do, a lot of steps we can take to make sure that we lessen the effects of drug abuse and prescription drug abuse. So the first thing we can do is be responsible, all right? Follow directions, listen to your doctor, take the correct dose, the correct person, for the correct reason. Never mix with any other drugs or alcohol. We can dispose of our unused medications properly. Mix it with coffee grinds, kitty litter, throw it in the trash. There's even drop boxes that you can dispose of your prescription drugs in, often at pharmacies. Sometimes even the police station have one where they will dispose of your prescription drugs for you. If you or someone you know has an issue with drugs abuse or misuse, talk to your doctor or your friends or your family. You can get help from a lot of different resources. The National Institute on Drug Abuse is a really good resource that has a lot of good tools to help figure out what your next steps are if there's an issue with any kind of drug abuse. Their website is www.drugabuse.gov, and they have a great hotline too. That's 1-800-662-HELP, HELP, that can help you navigate the steps that you need to take if you or someone you know is having those issues. And then, last of all, we need to be good role models, all right? Model good decision making for your friends, for your family, for your peers here at school. You guys are the high school kids, so you're the cool kids. All the kids younger than you are looking up to you, all right? Whether you realize it or not, they're looking up to you and looking for guidance for decision making and how to be good people. When you model healthy choices, you are helping younger people make healthy choices too. So it all boils down to our good decisions, our healthy choices, being responsible. We want to make sure that we have a bright, healthy, long future, and we can do that by staying away from these things that are dangerous to us. So have a good Red Ribbon Week, and I will talk to you next time.